All right, let's just start with this quote, because, wow, it really sets the stage. When the chairman of a company as massive as Geo Infocom says something this bold, you know it's not just talk. This is a signal. It tells us a huge strategic play is coming, one that plans to use AI as the literal engine for an entire nation's economy. And that brings us right to the heart of what we're breaking down today, Project Bharat Cloud. Now, this is so much more than just a new tech product. The title says it all, right? This is a grand strategy, a plan to completely capture a market of 50 million small businesses, and in doing so, build an entirely new kind of monopoly at the grassroots level of India's economy. To really get the sheer scale of this, you've got to think back to 2016. Remember that first Geo moment? When they just turned the consumer internet market upside down, making data insanely cheap for millions? Well, Project Bharat Cloud is being framed as the next Geo moment. But here's the twist. This time, the target isn't you and me as individuals. It's the small businesses that are the real backbone of the Indian economy. So where does an opportunity this big even come from? Well, it comes from what the strategy calls the 50 million business blind spot. We're talking about a gigantic, overlooked, and basically invisible segment of the economy that's just been sitting there waiting for someone to connect the dots. This slide really paints the perfect picture. Right now, you have all the global tech giants, your Amazons, Microsofts, Googles, all locked in this brutal fight, a red ocean battle over the same handful of big tech-savvy companies in India. But while they're all focused on that, they've completely missed this vast, calm blue ocean, millions and millions of local businesses that are still running completely offline. And the size of that blue ocean is it's staggering. We are talking about 50 million micro, small, and medium businesses. I mean, think about your neighborhood corner store, the local mechanic, the tailor down the street. These are the businesses that power communities. But from a digital point of view, they've been completely off the grid until now. So you have to ask why. Why has this colossal market been totally ignored? Well, the reasons are pretty simple, but they're huge barriers. First up, cost. Enterprise software is priced for, enterprises. It's just way too expensive for a small shop owner. Then there's complexity. Most of the software is built in English first with complicated dashboards that are just plain intimidating. And maybe most important is culture. These tools just don't work the way business is actually done on the ground, which a lot of the time is just simple phone calls and WhatsApp messages. Okay, so you've got these huge walls blocking the market. How in the world do you break them down? That's where we get into the master plan for Project Bharat Cloud, and it all starts with a very, very clever partnership. So the plan itself is a beautiful pairing of two different worlds. On one hand, you have Sudarshan AI, a nimble little startup that's built this genius, simple piece of software that works in local languages and is controlled entirely by voice. And on the other hand, you have the giant, Geo, bringing its massive cloud infrastructure, its incredible distribution reach, and its household name. It's the ultimate combo of agile innovation and sheer industrial power. And this is where the true ambition of the whole thing really clicks into place. Look, the goal here isn't just to sell a few software licenses. No way. The goal is to build what the plan calls an unbreakable moat, an entire ecosystem that gets so tangled up in a business's daily life that leaving is basically impossible. So how do you build a moat that strong? Let's break down the 4 pillars. First, you've got the hook, a price so low it's a no-brainer. Just 89 rupees to get your business online. Second, the interface, a Hindi voice CRM. This is the secret weapon that shatters the complexity barrier. You run your business just by talking. Third, the engine, an AI marketplace where every single voice command, every single task uses up a tiny piece of computing power on Geo's cloud. And finally, the most powerful one, the lock-in. Once a business has its entire history, every customer, every sale, every order, on this platform, switching to a competitor becomes a nightmare. They're locked in. But this isn't just about locking in the merchants. No, this strategy is built to ignite a powerful flywheel that speeds up growth across the entire Reliance Geo empire. This is where a simple tool transforms into a catalyst for something way, way bigger. And as you can see here, everybody gets something out of this. For the merchants, it's a digital lifeline. For GeoCloud, it's 50 million brand new customers, which could give them the kind of market dominance that Amazon's cloud service has in other parts of the world. And for India itself, it's a massive boost to the Digital India mission, bringing a huge piece of the informal economy online. This chart really shows you that the value for Geo is so much bigger than just cloud fees. That's just the foot in the door. This plan feeds a massive pipeline of customers to Geo Financial Services. It sets them up to dominate on India's open e-commerce network. And it keeps all of this vital economic data right here in India. And let's just zoom in on that financial part, because this is the real game changer. For years, these small businesses have been unscorable to banks because they're all cash, no real records. But by digitizing every single transaction, this platform creates a verifiable, real-time financial history. And just like that, 50 million businesses go from being invisible to being a prime customer base for loans, for insurance, you name it. Of course, none of this works unless it's a huge win for the business owners themselves, and the projected return on their tiny investment is just incredible. We're talking about a potential 45% jump in how fast they make sales and cutting the time they waste on manual work by 80%. This isn't just a small improvement, it's a total revolution for how they do business. So the vision is huge, the plan is smart, but what about the execution? I mean, how do you actually go from an idea to complete market domination? Well, the roadmap is just as aggressive as the vision itself. It's a clear, step-by-step blitz to take over the market. And it's a 4-year sprint. Year 1 is the test. Prove it works in Uttar Pradesh with 250,000 users. Year 2, they hit the accelerator, scale up to 10 million users across the entire Hindi-speaking region. Year 3, they go nationwide, adding more languages and racing to 25 million. And by year 4, it's the end game. Hit that 50 million user mark, lock down the market, and plug in the financial services to complete that unbreakable moat. Which brings us to this final massive question. On one hand, Project Bharat Cloud could be a digital lifeline, an engine of growth for millions of entrepreneurs who've been totally left behind. But on the other hand, it's a very clear, very deliberate strategy to build a private monopoly over the entire nervous system of India's local economy. So which is it? A lifeline or a lock-in? Well, the crazy thing is, it's probably both.